Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Since this event occurred on Saturday, the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, the internet has been ablaze and on fire with conspiracy theories. And I can only take a step back and look at the event that happened and realize that sometimes there is a reason that conspiracy theories emerge. People are unwilling or unable to accept the official narrative in what happened. One can just look to the historical example of JFK. People did not want to admit that a lone gunman could plan and execute such a history-changing event, such as the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And in this circumstance, what we get is a view into a similar event. It just seems so incredibly unlikely that some 20-year-old kid could evade the most professional security team on earth, that being the Secret Service. And of course, there is a great deal of controversy around these events. We're going to get into all of that tonight. But before we do, let's take a moment to welcome in the live chat. We've got Plan D, Chuck Bam. We have Rosa Eros here. Science, Evidence, and Fringe is here. Plan D. Arlene Atkinzel is here, of course. Gregory Jetson is here. Garaji is here. We have Until the Sun Dies. Amy Collins, welcome. Tony, is that Tony Vlick? Welcome, Tony Vlick. And we have Siren One. Thanks for being here and thanks for being a member. UFO Atheist. Jester X is here. Liz G is here. Caleb Foster is here. And Stormcrow is here so far. If I missed you, I apologize. We'll try to do some more shout outs as we progress. So before we begin on the President Trump conspiracies, I thought I would give a brief introduction into political assassinations and conspiracy theories. After all, political assassinations have often been pivotal moments in history, shaping the course of nations and even ideologies. However, these tragic events frequently become breeding grounds for conspiracy theories. These theories offer alternative explanations that diverge from official accounts, often gaining traction among the public. Tonight, we'll examine some notable conspiracy theories surrounding political assassinations, especially this most recent event, and assassination attempts, their origins, and the societal dangers that they present. One of the most famous political assassinations in history, of course, is the assassination of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar's assassination is one of the earliest examples of a politically motivated killing. On the Ides of March, famous date, March 15th, Caesar was stabbed to death by a group of Roman senators. While the motive was clear, which would be preserving the Roman Republic from Caesar's perceived tyranny, conspiracy theories surrounding the event soon emerged and persist to this day. Some speculated that other political factions orchestrated the assassination to consolidate power. The subsequent civil wars in Rome illustrate how conspiracy theories can exacerbate political instability and mistrust. Another very famous political assassination is, of course, the Lincoln assassination in 1865. President Abraham Lincoln's assassination by John Wilkes Booth is a cornerstone of American history. While Booth and his co-conspirators' motives were rooted in their support for the Confederacy, theories suggested larger conspiracies. Some posited that Vice President Andrew Johnson or other international actors were somehow involved. Such theories reflect a massive distrust in government narratives that can deepen political divides, as seen as in the turbulent Reconstruction era that came after Lincoln's assassination. Then, of course, the Kennedy assassination, which perhaps has the most number of books written about it and conspiracy theories about that event. President John F. Kennedy's assassination remains one of the most scrutinized events in history. Officially, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, but numerous theories have since proliferated, implicating the CIA, the mafia, and even Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. The enduring nature of these theories highlights the difficulty in reconciling official explanations with public skepticism. The Kennedy assassination conspiracy theories have fueled a broader mistrust in government institutions and a culture of suspicion when it comes to official government narratives. Perhaps the event which was closest to this Trump event was the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan in 1981. This is an event that I remember distinctly. At the time I was going to Catholic school, all my teachers were nuns. Someone came into the classroom and whispered something to Sister Joyce, as I recall, who then ushered us into the church from the school to pray for Ronald Reagan, who had been shot. John Hinckley Jr.'s attempt to assassinate President Ronald Reagan led to various conspiracy theories, and despite Hinckley's clear psychological motivations, some speculated about deeper political machinations or shadowy organizations behind the attempt. These theories, though lacking in evidence, contributed to an environment where political violence is seen as part of a larger hidden plot, undermining trust in democratic processes. Of course, there's a great deal of impact of these conspiracy theories on society in general. Conspiracy theories around political assassinations have profound societal impacts, such as an erosion of trust. Conspiracy theories erode trust in government institutions and official narratives. This skepticism can hinder effective governance and public cooperation. Then, of course, there is the issue of societal polarization. Belief in conspiracy theories often aligns with broader ideological divides, which complicates polarization and reduces the possibility of consensus among the public. Then, of course, there is the issue of political violence and radicalization. Conspiracy theories can incite violence and radicalization. Believers in conspiracy theories may resort to extreme actions, feeling justified in their pursuit of truth against perceived enemies. Distraction from real issues is also a major problem with these conspiracy theories. The focus on conspiracies can distract from addressing real political issues in society, diverting energy and resources from more meaningful reforms. So what we see, if we look through the broader lens of history, is that there is a massive history of conspiracy theories surrounding political assassinations or attempted political assassinations. And this certainly underscores the complex interplay between significant events and public perception. While the allure of these alternative explanations is understandable, the dangers they pose to societal cohesion and democratic integrity are substantial. Acknowledging these dangers is crucial in fostering a more informed and resilient public discourse. Combating conspiracy theories requires transparency, education, and, of course, critical thinking to ensure that societies remain grounded in reality, even in the face of tragedies such as an assassination or attempted assassination. So back to Trump. Oh, and by the way, before we begin with that, speaking of conspiracy theories, there's another issue which came across my feed, and I have fact-checked this. This is actually true. That is also creating a great deal of conspiracy theories. Here, we see Blackstone to acquire Ancestry.com for $4.7 billion, giving the investment firm total ownership and control of all the DNA from every person who's ever used the service. If you're unfamiliar with Blackstone, Blackstone is just a hotbed of conspiracies. And I think some of those are fears about Blackstone are well placed. And what we will see is that the shooter in this event surrounding Donald Trump was actually in a commercial for Blackstone, which of course just fuels more conspiracy thinking. So I want to get into some of the conspiracies around the event with Donald Trump. And just to be clear, my inclusion of anything here is not an endorsement of those theories or I'm not saying I believe this conspiracy theory is true. We're simply talking about these things and presenting them. So this has come across my feed many times. People are accusing the government of more than just negligence. It's very clear if you look at this event. I mean, I'm not a law enforcement officer, certainly have no experience in bodyguarding or protecting people. However, anybody, even a layperson, can look at what happened and see that there was a great deal of negligence around this event. So many people on my social media feeds are sharing this. Changed my mind. They allowed him on the roof. They let him take the shots. They took him out so he couldn't talk. And in regards to the shooter, there is a great deal of controversy around the shooter and just strange things. We're talking about a 20-year-old male who has virtually no social media presence. And I did some digging. And I have looked very deeply, including using archive.com and Wayback Machine and other tools to try to see, did he once have social media accounts and just scrub his internet presence before this event? It doesn't appear to me, but let's be clear, I'm no expert on these matters. I have a background in computer science, but I could miss something. I don't have CIA level tools here when digging for this person's social media. Just strange to me that a 20-year-old man would not have any social media presence whatsoever. None. And then, of course, fueling more conspiracy theories. Thomas Crooks, who was the would-be assassin, failed assassin, was a registered Republican, but we've seen reporting emerging that he had a severe hatred for Donald Trump, even though he recently registered as a Republican. So, certainly when an event like this happens, people make assumptions, as did I. The first thing I thought it was somebody from Antifa or some other extreme left-leaning organization or ideologist that was involved. But it appears he was a registered Republican, though he did give a small donation, I believe it was $15, to a Democratic super PAC, and that was found through campaign finance records. But on to some of the theories. Some of the conspiracy theories are getting ridiculous to me. There is a great deal of Trump-hating people. And by the way, I just want to put this on the record. I am neither a Trump supporter nor detractor. I'm a political independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. And I likely am not voting at all in this election due to the fact that I think, or if I do vote, I don't think I'm even going to vote. The choices this time around to me are so terrible that I don't feel like one is better than the other between these two choices. So before I get any hate mail for being a Trump supporter or a Trump hater, I just want to put that on the record. I am neither a Trump supporter nor a Trump hater. I could care less about federal elections. I've often commented that I think many people, I see my Facebook feed every time it's election season and the vitriol and the fighting and the my criminal is better than your criminal. To me, it's all ridiculous. And I often don't vote in national elections because I don't think that choice really makes a difference to my family and my day-to-day life. I do, however, participate in local elections where the choices will really impact my family. Just recently, there's issues in my local hometown and area insofar as the school board and things like that are concerned. So that I became active and would vote for the school board members because we wanted people that were not insane to be running the schools here. But in the federal elections, national elections, I generally don't care because honestly, I'm of the opinion that these politicians, they're great pretenders, but they don't care about you. They don't care about your family. They could care less. It's all about power and influence for many of these people. But back to the conspiracy theories, here we have a great one. There are many Trump-hating people who are linking this event with the King James Revelation, the book, Apocalypse here. Relating that he is the beast, and this event proves it. And I've spoken at least to one very fundamentalist Christian who is a biblical, literalist, meaning he believes everything in the Bible is 100% true. Anyway, there are some Christians that are Trump haters that are now claiming that this event proves that Donald Trump is essentially the Antichrist. So here's the meme that's going around. And I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given to him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So this is interesting that people are, that's just one of the conspiracy theories is that Donald Trump is the literal Antichrist of the Bible. And this event is one of the provers. People are saying that it's fulfilled one of the prophecies in Revelation, and that Donald Trump is indeed the Antichrist. And I just want to take a moment to speak about political rhetoric. I find it extremely interesting that so many people, regardless of what, like I said, I'm a political independent, I'm not a Trump supporter. However, I am very concerned that I have been concerned for some time with the rhetoric. The rhetoric that is going around. How many times have we all heard Donald Trump compared to Hitler, or people saying he's the next Hitler, or he's going to be a dictator? It's very problematic. And, for some people to pretend that this sort of political rhetoric has no impact, no real world impact on the world, I think is extremely, extremely dangerous. And speaking of that political rhetoric, it is interesting that even people in the UFO community, we have Matt Ford from the Good Propaganda Show. He specifically made videos comparing Donald Trump to Hitler. Before he was a UFO propaganda minister, he was a political operative. I would say political hack, but it is what it is. And for anybody, listen, this is just my opinion, but if you call a man Hitler or compare him to Hitler hundreds and hundreds of times, and by the way, certainly there are left-leaning media organizations. There was just a literal cover which put Donald Trump on the cover with a Hitler mustache on him. These left-leaning organizations have demonized this man, called him an existential threat to democracy. He's going to be a dictator. He's going to refuse to surrender power at the end of his term. He's going to do all these terrible things. You know, I, for one, think that certainly that could impact somebody, especially somebody who's mentally fragile, into believing that murdering the next Hitler would certainly be completely justified. And let's be clear, if you're comparing or saying he's the next Hitler, what you're saying is he's going to kill, what, 13 million people like Hitler did? And so certainly some people would feel justified in an assassination attempt. After all, you're saving the world from this dangerous man that's going to be the next Hitler. And isn't it interesting that all of those left-leaning people seem to have washed their hands of any responsibility of this event? And, you know, oh, well, it was that guy was a Republican who did that. Well, regardless of whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, I'm sure he's heard this comparison to Hitler hundreds of times over the past couple of years. And I, for one, think it's despicable to compare anybody to Hitler unless they truly deserve it. I think that Donald Trump is certainly something of an egomaniac and a bullshitter, but he's no Hitler. So, you know, isn't it time to, you know, sort of stop it with that ridiculous rhetoric, like he's an existential threat to democracy, or, you know, it's just not, it's not in the best interest of anybody to be using that kind of rhetoric, which I think certainly could influence some people. 1 second. I think it could influence some people to do something very dangerous. 1 second. Yeah, I need to take a very short break, just a few minutes. I'll be right back, friends. Yeah, I apologize. My wife was letting me know that there's a huge tree branch. We just had a huge storm. There was a huge tree branch that came down. And I'm going to have to deal with that. So we'll just try to get through what I have to share. So on to the next. Here is the shooter who is in a BlackRock commercial, which certainly fuels these conspiracy theories. And of course, the memes around this event have been nothing short of spectacular. All clear on the north end, over. It's absolutely ridiculous that that guy, now we're getting reports that 26 minutes before the event, he was being investigated as a threat or suspicious person. And somehow they still let Donald Trump take the stage. 5 unanswered questions about Trump's assassination attempt. Number 1, who was the woman appearing to yell the would-be assassin's name? Why does 20-year-old Crooks have 0 social media? Number 3, why did the Secret Service rip off Trump's shoes? We heard Donald Trump keep saying, stop, wait, let me get my shoes, right after the shots. I wondered about that myself. Why would the Secret Service take his shoes off? You know, I thought maybe his shoes fell off, but I don't know. Most people wearing a business suit are wearing business shoes that tie. So I didn't understand that. Number 4, why did the Secret Service allow Crooks to evade them 3 times before he fired? Number 5, who was the woman behind Trump, and was Crooks acting alone? And it's just, this entire event has got more questions than answers. And of course, there are various conspiracy theories now that there were multiple shooters, not just this Thomas Crooks, and that this would-be assassin is just a patsy, kind of like you know, what happened in the John F. Kennedy assassination. Not sure what I believe. And then there's also People are claiming he is a fake. He registered Republican just to become, a fall guy for this event. A Democrat trying to blend in. Obviously, a Democrat just seeking military training. Clearly, nothing but a Democrat making a fashion statement. High school kids clearly don't understand political nuance, unlike me. Obviously, a Democrat. The guy's a registered Republican. There's no evidence available that he is somehow pretending to be a Republican in order to take part in this event. And then, of course, the conspiracy theories around this event are that that this was an orchestrated event, or that the CIA was involved, much like in the JFK assassination. And of course, people are making fun of this. Look at this. Here's one of the memes. Mark safe from a CIA assassination attempt. And here's something that's strange. Is this normal? Does law enforcement clean crime scenes? Why would the FBI clean a roof? The FBI was pressure washing off windows and vents for any gunshot residue this morning. I've never heard of that. I really don't understand why the FBI wouldn't be involved. And here's something that's going around called "What are the chances?" Carrying a rifle and ladder 1 mile towards former presidential rally, not being intercepted. Yeah, there's some odds against that. And by the way, there's various reports that he carried the ladder to the building, but I've been unable to confirm that. So did he carry a ladder 1 mile towards that building? I can't imagine that they saw a guy carrying a ladder for a mile and didn't do anything, but here we are. Entering event grounds carrying the same, not being intercepted. Closing on most obvious sniper position and setting up ladder, not being intercepted. Climbing ladder to take position in the most obvious sniper position, carrying rifle, not being intercepted. Not being intercepted during the foregoing after having been spotted for 30 minutes prior. United States Secret Service, not positioning counter snipers on the most obvious sniper position. And the most obvious sniper position is where this would-be assassin took his shots from. Not being effectively intercepted during a period of minutes of public crowd yelling, "He's got a gun." United States Secret Service, not withdrawing the president during a period of the police. United States Secret Service were aware of the threat. We're getting reports now that one of the local police climbed up the ladder to check the roof, and the would-be assassin pointed his rifle at him, and he then dropped off the roof. So minutes before the shots took place, the local police at least were aware there was an active shooter. Why did the police not radio or call the Secret Service detail and tell them to get the president off the stage because there was an active shooter on the roof? This is very troubling. United States Secret Service not withdrawing the president during the period the police and United States Secret Service were aware of the threat. Counter snipers having shooter in sights for minutes and not terminating the threat. Counter snipers having shooter in sights while he starts shooting and withdrawing from engagement. Counter snipers not being posted to the most obvious sniper position on account of a small roof incline. And the head of the Secret Service has said there was no counter snipers on that roof because the roof was angled and that would be dangerous. But people are literally posting videos of a cow walking on a roof just like that. So that excuse sort of goes away. Investigators being unable to retrieve evidence of gunmen's prior communications. This is definitely a problem. And then, of course, there's controversies and conspiracy theories about the bandage that President Trump was wearing at the Republican National Convention. People are saying, oh, that bandage is way too large. You know, he's just playing it up for the cameras. And also people were claiming that the president was playing golf the day that he appeared with this huge bandage at the RNC, and he had no bandage. I did some research into that claim, and it turns out that people are posting pictures of the president playing golf from 3 years ago. And certainly 3 years ago, he has no scar on his ear or whatever. So I think that one is easily busted. People are saying, oh, this was all a staged event. and there's nothing, he doesn't have any scar tissue on his ear. Look, here he is playing golf. Turned out to be a 3-year-old picture of him playing golf, not the day of the RNC convention. So interesting that even the bandage that he is wearing is causing conspiracy theories. And I don't know, I'm not a medical professional, but if you have a damage at the top of your ear, I don't know, do they just bandage the whole ear? How is it that this works? I wanted to take a moment to give a big shout out to the world's worst UFO show host, Matt Ford, who, like I said, has essentially one of the people that I think are partly responsible for this attempted assassination attempt. In my view, anybody who used this kind of rhetoric, and by the way, this is Matt Ford with a voice disguiser on himself, stand for better, as he is telling everybody that Donald Trump is Hitler.
There is no...
Oh, by the way, let me put my fair use banner up. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public and we're critiquing the video that we're sharing. Let's start over.
There is no difference. Fanatics breed fanaticism. Words build bridges into unexplored regions. What luck for rulers that men do not think. The victor will never be asked if he told the truth.
Yeah, so this is some of the political rhetoric that I believe can contribute to a political assassination. If you keep comparing a man to Hitler, people are going to feel justified in taking him out. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it.
It is not truth that matters, but victory. If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will...
You mean like Donald Trump is Hitler? Sure.
...be believed. A fanatic that unleashed fanaticism upon our country. It's what he did, and it nearly took us down. And he can do it again.
Yeah, so this is just an example. I thought it was interesting that somebody from the UFO community was responsible for this. Interesting that this person who made this video, which certainly contributed to the rhetoric and the ratcheting up of the rhetoric that Donald Trump is Hitler, is a board member for this, contribute to some UAP nonprofit, right? Everybody's got a nonprofit these days. I guess I got to start one, apparently. So we'll get into a few more things. I have been sharing things on my Twitter. Interesting that so many people that were members of the military, even Dan Bongino, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not a fan of his, but he is a former Secret Service agent, so I think his opinion on this event is important.
Correspondent just said clearly not. When you're leaving a building that's only 160 yards away, which is perfectly adjacent to the stage and an elevated overwatch platform, which is perfect to try and take a shot from for an assassination attempt. I think that if you look at the water tower that's not being talked about, which could be an actual shooting platform, and this idea that you have a sloped roof is going to prevent you from doing so. Okay, let's go ahead and weigh that out for a moment. So you couldn't have put a patrol car that's locked with the lights on in the parking lot of AGR to be a deterrent. You couldn't have put someone on the ground to ensure there's no permissible climbing environment.
Yeah, and just to be clear, there are many, many people that are calling for the resignation of the person who is the head of the Secret Service, who has so far refused to step down or even acknowledge the vast number of failures that took place during this
to get
event.
them onto the rooftop. They were there for 26 minutes is what was reported. Two different people who were attending the rally took photos and sent it to the law enforcement officer. And the law enforcement officer said that when he came onto the roof, that the gentleman had the assassin, would-be assassin, pointed his rifle at him. Why would you not have an emergency comms channel through your coordination with the Secret Service to yell, shoot her on the roof, shoot her on the roof, shoot her on the roof, have your Secret Service detail come immediately, take the president, get him off the stage, and then allow your counter sniper team to then mitigate the threat. Everything about this, at best, is gross negligence, but I am not actually taking anything off the table. This is why I think we have to have a J13 style.
What do you mean by that?
I'm not going to say what was negligence.
Yes. So some people are essentially claiming that there was some collusion or that certain events were allowed to happen, because you get into a situation where there's just so much negligence that you can't even believe that the Secret Service, that the local police were this negligent. However, I do have to say I have some familiarity with small town police at my cabin. They're not prepared to deal with something like an assassin on a roof. These sort of local podunk towns. Butler, Pennsylvania is just some small town in the middle of Pennsylvania near Pittsburgh. It is not, I doubt that the police there have the experience and the training required to handle just such an event.
What was intent, what was possible. I am from the United States military, where we used to what if every single scenario, and you don't take anything off the table until it's confirmed. And so at this point in time, when you think about the president's platform, when you think about his elevation, the threat levels that's against him, this is a man who's exposed 160 yards. Look, Martha, I can take any individual in America, and after 10 minutes of training who's never picked up a rifle, they can make a shot in a pie-sized plate. If you're talking about the average structure of a—
Yes, and what's interesting is that the shooter tried to get on the rifle shooting team at one point, perhaps to increase his marksmanship. And I just wanted to say, I'm not very well experienced with guns. I have a little bit of experience with guns. From 160 yards, almost anybody that has a basic familiarity with a rifle could make that shot. So for the Secret Service and the local police to leave that rooftop exposed, of course, this is going to make people think that there's some sort of conspiracy. How could you be so negligent? How could you be so careless? And there's also the issue that apparently Donald Trump requested additional security due to all the threats that he gets. They requested from the Secret Service more protection, and were denied that additional protection by the Department of Homeland Security or something like that. It's very disturbing.
Man, which snipers will actually know about, which is 6x8, 20 inches across, 40 head to waist. That rifle, even if it's not a great rifle, and it shoot a 2 MOA. So a 1 MOA would mean 1 inch at 100, 2 inches at 200 as far as your grouping. Even if it was a terrible rifle and it had a 2 MOA, you're still only talking about 3.2 inches.
No, there's no question that area should have been protected. I want to play this soundbite by Kimberly Cheadle.
Yes, so Kimberly Cheadle is the head of the Secret Service. And here she offers an excuse for why that rooftop was not covered, which seems incredibly stupid excuse to me.
Presides over the Secret Service. And listen carefully to what she says here.
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so,
It was the perfect perch for a would-be assassin. So I'm, for one, finding it difficult to believe that the police, the local police, and the Secret Service both left that perfect perch for a would-be assassin uncovered.
The decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Apparently, there were police inside the building. Maybe they were, getting out of the heat in the air conditioning or something. Incredible.
That's ridiculous, because as we just pointed out, maybe we can pop that picture up again on our own. The counter sniper team, one of them, there were 4 counter sniper teams that were on location, was on a sloped roof. Okay, they were on a roof that was very similar, in fact, to the roof that the assassin was on. And in this photo, based on what we know, they were looking absolutely right in the direction, and it appears that the shooter was on the other side of the slope. But
yeah, and in the videos, you see one of the snipers do a oh shit face, like he realized that there was an assassin. You could see the look on his face. He's clearly, through his scope, saw the would-be assassin.
If we don't have the capability to see over a 6-inch sort of centerpiece of a rooftop, we are in serious.
And here's a video we see of people saying there's a shooter, there's somebody with a gun, he's up on the roof. They're telling the police.
Trouble. I also want to highlight what she says after that part. That there were 4 counter sniper teams, as I mentioned, including 2 from Secret Service and 2 from local law enforcement, stationed in or near the building. So they're saying that there was a sniper.
So the police and or Secret Service were inside the building as this would-be assassin climbed up a ladder, took his position, and started shooting.
Team possibly inside or near that building
Look, the bottom line
that
is
wasn't aware there was someone on top of it.
whether they're sitting there trying to stay cool in the air conditioner, they should be doing their job. And I can tell you that sloped roof is nothing that the Department of State and the Secret Service and the military doesn't sit on all the time. It's actually not a slope at all in that one case. You're talking about something that you could utilize rubber bottom shoes. You could basically utilize a platform that allows you to basically secure yourself in. That excuse doesn't pass muster. This continued cover up does not muster. We need an investigation. We need answers for the American people. We need to ensure that there's no longer any political attempts to cause violence against our president or against anyone who ever runs in the future.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and it will be interesting to see what those investigations eventually uncover. And I'm just at a loss for words that this event happened and no one so far has been suspended, fired, asked to resign. Not one person has been suspended, asked to resign, or anything like that. Just a tremendous failure on the part of the Secret Service, which is unfortunate. But and here we have some footage that is relatively new. I haven't seen this before, so I wanted to include it in tonight's broadcast. This is new footage that shows the Secret Service rushing Trump to safety. Just tremendous that there's so much video of it. So this is after the shooting event, and they're rushing him, pulling him off the stage, keeping him covered, and into a bulletproof vehicle. So that's just some interesting footage that I wanted to include. And I think most importantly is the opinion of former Secret Service agent. Here we have Dan Bongino offering his opinion of the total negligence of what happened.
And we have to triage this into a few simple questions, or honestly, we could be here all day. Why was there no spotter? Why was there no post stander down there? Why didn't they secure the air conditioning unit that this guy obviously at this point looks like he leapt on to get onto the building? Why wasn't there a post stander there? But if I had to pin it down to a couple of simple questions, and I've said this to members of Congress, I had Jim Jordan on my radio show and podcast, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I said, I'm begging you, during this congressional hearing, no filibustering, no nonsense, no campaign websites, get right to the point. Number one, they spotted this guy acting suspiciously, making furtive movements and things like that 26 minutes before the shots rang out.
Not only that, but he tried to enter the event with a rangefinder. And, for those unaware, anybody that's a police officer would know instantly that somebody that's trying to walk into an event with a president with a rangefinder probably doesn't have good intentions for that president or former president. That would be extremely suspicious. Incredible.
So let's lowball it. Assume that's 20 minutes before Trump starts making President Trump his way onto the stage. Why was President Trump allowed on the stage? I mean, as a former Secret Service agent, I've got an active open threat I can't locate. So they knew about it 20 minutes before. Apparently, from what I'm hearing from sources, he had disappeared in and out of these buildings, so they couldn't find him.
Yeah, so they knew that there may be an active threat, and the Secret Service still let Donald Trump take the stage while they're trying to locate an active threat. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And, this entire event just informs me of how conspiracy theories start. Because if the government is going to tell us that, there's no conspiracy here, it was just negligence, like the amount of negligence is absolutely ridiculous. There's so many opportunities to stop the threat and to protect former President Trump from this threat that were all ignored. It's just mind-boggling.
Okay. Assume threats happen, right? I mean, even the best security plans, you can get threats at times. I've been with them. I mean, I had a guy in a hotel room one time in Indonesia acting funny, and I said, you're going to have to delay the president landing.
I agree.
We found what it was, and then he landed on time. It was no problem. Why was he allowed to walk on stage? I mean, You don't need to be a former Secret Service agent like me to say, wait, so you knew there was a threat there for 26 minutes and you still let him walk on stage anyway and get
They
shot?
should never have let him
I
take
don't
the stage.
understand. Like, why not just delay the speech? I mean, Joe Biden's late on speeches all the time. The networks will wait. You couldn't wait 5-10 minutes. We have a holding
Well,
room
think
at
about
every
that, James
single
Pierce.
site. The holding room, you know why it's called the holding room? This is very scientific. Because we hold you there if something goes bad.
Yes, people aren't aware of this, but every time that a president or a former president makes a public appearance, the Secret Service do a lot of pre-work. And one of the things that they do is have a holding room. So that there is any threat, they have a secure, guarded room that they could take the asset, the president or the former president, into while they deal with the threat. So he would be taken to a secure room that's guarded, that's very safe, while other agents go and deal with the threat. They did not do that in this circumstance.
That's literally why it's called the holding room. Why wasn't it used? That's question one. Why was he even on stage? The second question, the failed Secret Service director, Kim Cheadle, who has been an abomination for this agency right now,
Sure.
just put out today, I was just talking to Mike Davis, I think you saw, is one of the great commentators, love Mike. And Mike's asking some of the same questions you are, because no one can fathom the stupidity.
Yeah, there's only one guy.
Kim Cheadle put out a statement that we didn't have a sniper, counter
I
sniper
agree
team
100%, Aaron Flores.
because of the slope of the roof. Well, the shooter didn't seem to have any problem with the slope of the roof. Even accepting that
diversity, equity,
idiocracy
inclusion
of that story, how stupid it is. Why then did you allow him a clean line of sight? I'll give you a quick story I told on my radio show today. You can't mitigate everything. They could have got someone on that roof and they didn't. But say they really couldn't have. It's unstable or whatever. Okay, fine. Accepting this ridiculous story. I did a site once at Hofstra University for Hillary Clinton when she was the first lady. There was a really troubling line of sight issue. We were short on assets. There was a dorm building looking in through the window. Someone could have popped the shot off. We didn't have an asset to get up there. So you know what I did? I had them go to a hardware store. And you know the fake snow? I said, I want you to fake snow spray paint all of those windows. So at least the shooter can't see.
Wow.
It would be a random shot. We don't want it, but at least you're not going to be able to rangefinder. Wow. They couldn't even put a campaign banner and block the line of sight for the guy with the biggest footprint in the world. So again, why didn't they block the line of sight? And second, why was he on the X anyway? The X is what we call in the Secret Service where the protectee is standing. If you're in a limo and a limo gets hit.
Yeah, just a stunning bunch of failures here.
The golden rule is you get him off the X.
Right.
Why was he even on the X? Cover, evacuate, or don't even bring him to the stage. There is no excuse for this. There should be mass resignation.
Oh, that's interesting, William Runner. I did not know that.
Criminally investigated for what happened here.
So can the FBI actually investigate this? Do you trust them to do that?
No, do I trust the FBI? That's like asking an alcoholic if you trust Jose Cuervo. Like, no, I absolutely don't. I want to say, I hope they prove me wrong. I'm also a realist, and I realize the FBI has some decent people. I worked with them. The management right now is an abomination.
Yeah, I'm certain there's going to be quite an intensive investigation into this entire event. It will be interesting to see the outcome of that investigation.
And what I'm afraid of is even if you get a bunch of good rank and file investigators who find out something serious, I don't know what that is or could be. I don't put out stuff I can't back up. That I don't trust Christopher Wray to tell people the truth. I just don't. I mean, if the guy had a Moms for Liberty hat on.
I agree, Michael C. Bold. We're going to try to do that.
Believe me, they'd have every story right now. The guy's parents would be in the gulag. But no, I don't. I hope they prove me wrong, however. I don't say things I can't back up. And until they, I see some evidence that they're hiding stuff, I'll reserve opinion. But their track record, I mean, can we just be honest, is, from horrible to atrocious.
Yeah, very interesting. So there's the opinion of a former Secret Service agent. And of course, Joe Rogan chimed in. I thought this was interesting. Hopefully we don't get a copyright claim for this. This is fair use. This is a transformative work. I'll even make it small. Joe Rogan is kind of famous for copyright claiming his clips.
Like if he turns his head at the last second and the bullet grazes his ears, if he didn't, it hits the back of his head and he's dead. And then we fall into chaos and who knows what the fuck happens.
Big chaos.
And then people think that the Biden administration had Trump killed. And
yes. And there's certainly a great number of Trump supporters who are right now claiming that all of these things that we saw that look like incompetence and, mistakes were not mistakes. People are accusing the Biden administration of killing or attempting to kill President Trump. I can see how people that are huge supporters of Trump would believe that. After all, clearly Biden has weaponized the justice system against him, his political rival, which kind of makes us into a third world country. That you expect that in a third world country. You don't expect that here. So all of this various means of persecution of Donald Trump, I'm not sure how I feel about all that, but I'm just saying I can understand how somebody would believe that Biden was ordered this because he couldn't beat him in a real election or whatever.
And then there's these questions like, how the fuck does this 20-year-old kid climb on that roof 150 yards away and no one sees him?
Well, that one guy was pointing at him the whole time.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Many people did see him and alert law enforcement, and they still allowed President Trump to get on and stay on that stage.
Yes.
He's like pointing to, he's right there.
And they're yelling, he's got a gun. There's a guy in the prone position on a roof 150 yards away from the former president. The whole thing's nuts. The whole thing stinks of either incompetence or a design, or we're in the Matrix. This is a fucking fake movie. It seems like almost
you couldn't write something like this.
The most bombastic and manly of presidents. Well,
this is why we don't do politics here, Amy
to
Collins.
see him with.
Listen, anybody that believes that New York case was on the up and up, I'm sorry, I disagree. Come on. How many people did Bill Clinton pay off with hush money? Was he ever prosecuted for that? Of course not. So, and by the way, the classified documents case has been thrown out by the local judge. So at least one of his legal problems instantly went away. We'll see what happens with the rest of them.
With these two female bumbling Secret Service agents, especially the one, to see everything happen the way it is, to see that they knew this guy was on the roof, to hear that guy had pointed his rifle before that at a cop. So the cop engaged him. He pointed the rifle and the cop ran away. The guy climbed the roof with a ladder. You can see the ladder. The whole thing is bananas.
Yeah, I agree. This is just an incredible sequence of events. It seems unreal to me.
He's 20 years old. And then you find out he was in a BlackRock commercial.
Yeah. Welcome to conspiracy land.
Is this the Black Mirror? Like, tell me what's going on. Is this real? And then Trump goes golfing with a bandage on his ear the next day.
Yeah. And then the putt, when he made the putt.
Jesus.
Did you hear his quote?
No.
He said, that's the difference between me and the shooter. I don't miss.
This isn't a real person.
And then now you have people flooding from the left being like, all right.
Yeah.
That's a good quote.
It is a good quote. Unlike the shooter, I don't miss. Interesting. So I wanted to share a few more things. 1 second here. This is some interesting footage. 1+ hour before the shooting, the shooter is walking around the building and looking up, and someone captured this footage. I'm going to turn the volume down so we don't get a copyright claim. So that's interesting. He's walking around the building looking up, I guess looking for where he's going to shoot from. And this is 1 hour before the shots were fired. So interesting. If there had been sufficient security stationed in and around that building, they should have stopped him and seen what he was doing, perhaps. Lots of missed opportunities to avoid a catastrophe here. And then this is what I thought was interesting. A former classmate talks about his severe hatred for Donald Trump.
Thomas was a quiet kid unless there's something that he was passionate about, politics being one of them. He just did not like politicians, especially with the choices that we've had. He did not like our politicians. It was especially during 2016. It was Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, all of them. he showed that he disliked all of them, did not like any of them. So I brought up the fact that I'm Hispanic and, you know, I'm for Trump. And he said, well, you're Hispanic, so should you hate Trump? And I was like, no, he's great. I mean, like, he's a great president. And he's, you know, he called me stupid or insinuated that I was stupid. He's like, well, that's kind of stupid.
So apparently the shooter hated all politicians, but especially Trump.
He was a know-it-all. So, like, once again, if he was passionate about something, he would just talk, and acted like he knew everything, especially politics related. And he was just.
I noticed that too, John Lies. You're exactly right.
Like, I'm better than you in a type of way. And, you know, meanwhile, it's like, dude, we're in the same classes. You know what I mean? We're talking about the same stuff here. And whenever it comes to politics, I mean, at the end of the day, I can agree, you can disagree, I can disagree. We're not even talking about it. Like, at that point, it doesn't matter. At that point, it's, you know what I mean? We're just starting to figure out who we like and all. But, yeah, he was real smug, arrogant whenever he was talking. And whether
the story is evolving, Sandy Smith. You're right. And thanks for being a member.
My skin a lot. So his friend group, they were known for being, like I said, like just out there, a little bit more recluse.
Yeah, that is concerning, Patty Wilhelm. I agree.
Some of them went homeschool. Some of them, I think one of them went to like a private school.
Yeah, many people predict. Tucker Carlson also predicted his assassination.
And they did make threats to shoot up our school. And that year, I believe it was our freshman year, because I had left our freshman year.
You're right, William Ryder. Depends on your biases and
going
beliefs.
Through Snapchat, everybody's texting everybody, you know, saying this, that, and the third. Everybody was saying it was Thomas who made it.
They bought BlackRock, troll, and therefore they own anybody's DNA that's ever used. BlackRock bought Ancestry.com. So they own everybody's DNA that's ever sent it in.
School for a couple of days. It wasn't anything like a suspension or anything. It was just a couple of days. You know, he was not severely bullied. Almost nobody knew him. So, you know, for somebody who got severely bullied, I mean, I'm not going to.
Yes, Wilcock was the only one who didn't predict this. Yes.
That were severely bullied, and I
He claimed he predicted. He just forgot to tell us about that prediction until after the event happened. Funny that.
Somebody definitely had to know. Somebody, whether he was talking to somebody or somebody either just didn't realize and just overlooked it, somebody should have known, because he was not a loner. And if both of his parents being counselors, how do you
That's
know
interesting.
That not here?
Both of his parents were counselors.
Anybody who knew him should have seen something, should have known something was up. And I know it's kind of easy to hide, but people are going to get their affairs in order before they do something that's bold and this drastic, and nobody saw it.
Yes, and one of the things that is interesting is that he had to know that he was going to be killed. He had to know about the counter sniper teams. So this was a suicide mission that he was on. Just incredibly disturbing event all around. And most disturbing to me is the myriad of failures. And one more thing to share. Apparently, the shooter got the gun from his father, who legally owned 20 different firearms, which is interesting.
Gunmen and the security flaws. The FBI tells us they've successfully gained access to the shooter's phone, looking for any information on a motive. Investigator Megan Hickey has been tracking the developments. Megan, we're learning the shooter's father actually called police after the shooting. Right.
Yes, and this is interesting. The police were called and told that he was missing and that they were worried about him. What were the worries? You know, I can only relate it to my own experience, but, I doubt that my parents would call the police if I was missing for an hour. So why did his parents call the police when he was missing for an hour or two?
Erica, law enforcement sources tell CBS News that the gunman's father called local police after the shooting took place. Right now, we don't have details about the nature of that call or the exact timing, but investigators say the family of the shooter is cooperating. Meanwhile, new video posted to social media also shows some attendees at the Trump rally noticing the gunman on the roof and alerting police at least 1 minute before the shooting.
Right here, right on the roof. She's standing up now. Right on the roof.
There's a guy on the roof. So 1 minute before the shooting took place, the police were alerted. Why did they not get on the radios or call the Secret Service detail and alert them that there was an active threat to get Trump off the stage? One of the other things that was disturbing to me is just how long they let Trump stay on the stage. Now, granted, there's 4 or 5 Secret Service agents covering him with their bodies, but they let him poke his head up and, do the fist pumping. There could have been another. How did they not know there could be another shooter? And that level of threat, you don't let the person, in my opinion, you shouldn't let the person that you're protecting, pop their head up on a stage when he was just shot or shot at.
Just a minute after this was taken, the shots were fired, injuring former President Donald Trump, killing a spectator and critically wounding 2 others. The sheriff of Butler County told our CBS affiliate that a local police officer was hoisted up onto the roof by another officer to check the premises. After receiving those bystander reports, the officer saw the shooter who pointed the rifle at him. He said the officer then let go and fell from the roof.
And at that very point, someone should have radioed the Secret Service people closer to the president and alerted them that they had an active threat, an active shooter. It boggles the mind that he was not pulled from the stage immediately upon the police discovering a man with a rifle on a rooftop 150 yards from the president.
There's going to be finger pointing starting now until whenever, until all the facts come out. And I think as me, I'm looking, let's wait till this is over, and then we can see at the end of the day what we need to correct to make this not happen.
And Sheriff Michael Sloop repeatedly called the security plan flawed. Today, he also said securing the building was
he was a registered Republican.
Secret Service. He said he was never asked to sweep the building and has no idea if anyone did a sweep.
I don't believe that.
The gun was legally purchased by Thomas Matthew Crook's father from a now closed gun dealer in 2013. But law enforcement sources also confirmed that the shooter purchased 50 rounds of ammunition at a local gun store just hours before the shooting. Federal authorities are still investigating what may have prompted the gunman to carry out the shooting. So far, they say it appears he acted alone. And in their update this afternoon, the FBI said the search of the subject's home and car, they are now complete, Erica.
Yeah, so 2 key elements, but so much more we need to learn.
So many more questions.
All right.
Yeah, an awful lot more questions than answers about all of this events. We want to take a moment to thank Brad A., who just became a YouTube channel member. For those unaware, we're a viewer-supported show, and if you become a YouTube channel member during the live broadcast, we give you a big shout-out and a thank you. So there's a big shout-out for Brad A., who just joined our YouTube member program here, where you get some extra goodies. You get that YouTube channel member badge, letting all the viewers in the live chat know that you're a big supporter of the show. Thank you, Brad A., for helping us to praise the cash. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Okay, so back to the myriad of conspiracy theories. And of course, you would expect nothing less from him, but Alex Jones has really monetized these events. Live emergency broadcast. Secret Service director's skipped roof excuse collapses as experts raise alarm of deep state cover-up. So, of course, Alex Jones is running with various different conspiracy theories. Here's one. Soon-to-be unmasked entities bet that President Trump's stock would plummet one day before the assassination attempt. Shorts against Truth Social stock more than doubled from July 1st to July 12th, meaning people or large organizations were predicting that Monday the stock would plummet. Again, there's so many strange events that have happened, right? And of course, the meme wars have begun. Here's one. Choose your fighter. I'm sick, says Joe Biden. Apparently, Joe Biden has COVID now. He's just recovered from a cold, but turns out that may have been COVID. That's interesting, right? And so there's various conspiracy theories being pushed, many of them surrounding, many of them using the apparent negligence and all of these apparent mistakes as fuel for the conspiracy fire. People just simply refuse to believe that the Secret Service could be this incompetent. And there is still a lot of footage that is being shared now from the event. Here's another look at the podium directly after the shooting.
The president's been shot. Oh no. No. Either that or they're covering. We don't know. Either that or they're covering him. We love you. We love you, President Trump. We love you. We love you, President Trump.
This looks like Keystone Cops to me, sort of bumbling.
We love you. Yes. 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 We love you, President Trump. No. Oh, no, he's shot. He's shot.
And here they are getting him off the stage and into the bulletproof vehicle that's standing by nearby.
It could just be his ear. He's walking.
And we see the relief, the horror, the utter horror of people who believe that he was assassinated, then sort of elation as they realize he's walking. So assuming he's, just been grazed or shot in the ear, somebody said there. An interesting historical event. I'm a student of history. I think that this event will long be studied and spoken about. But back to the conspiracy theories, of course, one of the other conspiracy theories that I've been seeing is that this entire event was staged by Donald Trump. And when I see people make those claims, it just makes me sad because after all, there was a victim that was murdered. He was in the crowd, a father, former firefighter, I believe, who shielded his wife and children's body with his own, and tragically was shot in the head, I believe, and lost his life. And then, of course, the shooter was shot and killed. That's two people. There were several other people that were very seriously injured. But I believe that those two are sort of out of the major danger and will make it. So for people to suggest that this event was all staged, tell that to the family of the victim who was shot and killed. He had a wife, he had children. Is that just part of the staged event? I don't believe that. So the conspiracy theories range from the CIA did it, claiming that the shooter was a patsy and that, the deep state tried to murder Trump because the lawfare cases were failing and that didn't work to take him out of the race. And I get there's some really fervent supporters of Donald Trump. But for somebody to suggest that the event was staged, and for what? For political points? We're going to get political points for this? And here I wanted to share this. Just how close was it to President Trump being murdered? This is how close it was. He turned his head at the very last moment, which caused the bullet to hit his ear and not go in his skull. Had his head been turned a few inches the other way, the bullet would have directly impacted the side of his head and come out the back of his head, which certainly at that caliber and that distance would have been a kill shot. And I, for one, am thankful that that President Trump survived, not because I'm a huge Trump supporter, but mostly because imagine the chaos that would erupt in our country if this assassination attempt was successful. If you think people are accusing Biden of being behind this now, imagine if the president was actually shot and killed. And then what would happen to the whole election coming up? Would they have to get a new Republican nominee at the very last minute, just a week before his nomination as the Republican candidate? What would happen to the election? I believe if Trump did, if this assassination attempt were successful, I believe that there would be mass chaos across the United States. There would be all kinds of violence. So, and you know, just from a human perspective, regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, I'm a family man. Donald Trump has a wife, children, grandchildren. So, from a human perspective, certainly, I'm glad that he's made it through this. Now, what impact will this have on the election? Well, some polls are starting to come in showing Donald Trump 5 or more points ahead in key battleground states. And before this event and the debate, they were pretty tied in many of the key battleground states. Certainly, Trump is ever the politician, and he's going to use this imagery of him with his fist in the air or defiant in the face of an assassination attempt to project confidence, to project strength and passion and patriotism in order to get more votes. So we'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. As I mentioned, there's some kind of a situation that I have to deal with outside. A big tree branch fell and is laying in the street or partly in the street. So I'm going to have to go and deal with that. My wife, I knew something was going on. I heard a big crash and then I went outside and looked around, but I didn't see what had happened. Apparently a big part of a tree came down here on our property. So I'm going to have to deal with that. Trolly Troll Troll says previously the director of the Secret Service was a security executive for Pepsi. Got to guard those soft drinks. Yes. And also fueling conspiracy fire. She was a very close family friend of the Bidens. So people are claiming, and again, I'm not agreeing with this or saying this is true. We're just reporting on what the claims that people are making. People are claiming that the Secret Service was somehow ordered to stand down and allowed this event to take place. And given the amount of mistakes and it's just unbelievable what happened. I'm not a security professional. I'm not a military man. I'm not a law enforcement officer or Secret Service agent. But logic would tell you that they would cover that very obvious perch point that an assassin would see and perhaps use to take a shot at the president. Lots more questions than answers. I'm hopeful that an investigation will reveal more, but it's likely that investigation will take months. You know how slowly the government operates. They don't do anything quickly. So it's probably going to be 6 months before we get a real clear picture of why all of these apparent bumbling efforts of the Secret Service were allowed to happen. She was Jill's Secret Service detail. Yes, I had heard that. And while the president was vice president, she was assigned directly to Jill Biden. And it apparently was Jill Biden's decision to have her husband, President Biden, promote her to the role of the director of the Secret Service. UFO Chol says the Secret Service has full control and maintains all the security inside the rally. Well, you know, that's another excuse. The perch point was just outside the security perimeter. But to me, it was such an obvious, security risk leaving that building. There should have been snipers on that building, in my opinion. There should have been police and Secret Service guarding that building. The fact that a 20-year-old kid was just allowed to climb up a ladder and apparently with a big knapsack with a rifle in it and a rangefinder, and that's another thing. Even with a crappy rifle and no scope, anybody that's a decent shot could have made that shot. But thank God, apparently this would-be assassin. Well, I mean, it could be a combination of things. Like we said, if President Trump's head was turned just an inch or two the other way, that would have been a kill shot. So maybe it was a kill shot, but because he turned his head, it was not. And thank God for that. Just from a human perspective, I'm glad that this didn't happen. But then from another perspective, I don't want to see chaos in our country. And if the assassin was successful, I believe that there would be widespread chaos all across the country in sort of response to that happening. Regardless of if it was intentional or negligent, the event is getting him elected. Yeah, a lot of people say that event just made it a lock. Listen, here's what I will say as a father and a family man. Our groceries cost twice as much now as they did under President Trump. And I don't know, maybe printing. I'm not an expert in policies and what really causes all this inflation, but I can't deny the fact that maybe printing billions and billions of dollars devalues our money. Maybe that had something to do with it. And just the price of everything between inflation and shrinkflation, families all over the United States, including my own, are struggling. Everything is twice. It feels to me that everything is twice as expensive now as it was 4 years ago. And so when you get into a situation with an election and predicting who the winner will be, you just have to ask yourself, am I really better off now than I was 4 years ago? From any perspective, I am not. I was better off. My family was better off 4 years ago, before all of this rapid inflation and shrinkflation and all of this stuff devalued our money. And, I saw somebody say, somebody posting something, and I don't get involved in these political back and forths on Facebook or Twitter or anything. I stay out of politics largely. We're covering this because there's so many conspiracies around it. But, somebody said, the stock market is doing so much better under Biden, but your money is now worth half of what it was since Biden took over. So that's a problem. And I really think it's all the printing of money. It's giving away all this money to Ukraine. And, God bless the people of Ukraine. I don't want to see anybody in a war, but that's not our war. That's somebody else's war. Most people, I think, would say that we have our own problems here. And what could all that money have done? If you do a quick Google search, how much money did the United States give to Ukraine so far? 52 billion. That's the quick number that comes up. I'm sure it's more than that. 175 billion total. That's how much aid we've given to Ukraine, $175 billion. And, I have a problem with that because meanwhile, we have veterans that are homeless and sleeping on the streets. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Inflation is out of control. And we have so many problems here. Imagine what that $175 billion could have done for our country. But I realize maybe it's more complicated than that. I get the arguments. I happen to be half Polish, and there's a lot of arguments that if Putin is allowed to take Ukraine, he will try to take some of the other Baltic states, including Poland, next. In fact, I'm aware that Poland is readying for a full-scale war with Russia should that event, become a possibility or a probability. They're readying for war. So I guess it's very complicated. I'm all for helping people, but, charity begins at home. Wow, Tim Houston says cigarettes in Australia, $34 for a pack of 20, and that's from Safeways. Wow, they're $10 here, which I think is crazy. Yeah, and I'm trying to go back to vaping. Cigarettes are the stupidest thing you could do to yourself. $134 for 50-gram rollies I smoke. Yeah, I do that usually, Storm Crow. I just get the can and the rolling papers and roll them myself because it's just so expensive otherwise. $34, that is criminal. Yeah. So we're going to call this one a short one. I apologize, but I do have sort of a homestead emergency here. I got to go check out this tree and see what I can do. Unfortunately, my chainsaw and everything is at the cabin, so that's going to be a problem. Yeah. Anyway, as far as all these conspiracy theories go, I'm not sure how many. I'm not sure I believe any of them. I think that you always need to keep in mind how incredibly incompetent the government is. And it's no surprise to me that that incompetence would also be, infected into even the Secret Service. I am extremely disappointed as an American that that's the best that we could do. A lot of people are blaming that there was a lot of women on the detail, which is kind of new. We haven't seen many women Secret Service agents before. And people are saying that's DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why those people were hired. I'm all for diversity, but I think that sometimes you just have to pick the best person for the job, especially when it comes to somebody that might save somebody's life or be protecting somebody's life. You got to pick the best person, whether they're, this diversity stuff should not be a factor. Rick Roberts says, how did they get a ladder and a gun up to the front of the police? That was a police designated area. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. Supposedly inside the building, the kid was on a command post of agents inside. That's interesting. Adam Marquis is here and says, great show. Thanks for putting diverse and quality information. Learned some things. Well, thank you, Adam Marquis. We appreciate that. Thanks for appreciating us. Cops too busy eating donuts to notice. Yeah. Secret Service needs to play Call of Duty more often. Elevation is key. Yeah, I've noticed that in all those kind of games, Bob Marley. If you have the high ground, you're going to do pretty well. Did I ever learn some Polish? Yes and no, Aaron Flores. I speak Polish terribly, though. And I took Polish lessons as a child. But then my father, who was an immigrant and had when he was a child, I'm told anyway, by the time he had children, there was no discernible accent from him. But he was very big on us just being American kids. So he didn't. I know other households that I grew up around that were Polish. They spoke Polish in the home. We never spoke Polish at home. I mean, at my grandparents' house we did, but not in our home. My father wanted us to just be regular American kids, though he did make us take classes, Polish language classes, but that was mostly because my grandparents barely spoke English, and we had to be able to communicate with them. Yeah. UFO Chol says, you don't think Trump has a say-so, and who protects him? He chooses everything, and everything has to do with him. I don't know that as a person being protected, you could say, I don't like these women agents. Get me men agents instead. I don't know that he has any say in that. I think they just assign you the people they assign you. Problem is the director of Secret Service wants 30% women. Yeah. Well, listen, I have to be honest, Storm Crow, and saying I know some really tough women. But still, if my life was in danger and I had to choose between, let's say, 6 men or 3 men and 3 women, I think I would choose the men. I'm sorry if that makes me sexist or, whatever. I just kind of think that, men would be better. I would feel more comfortable with men protecting me than women. Though I'm sure there are some very capable women that would be more than capable of doing that job. We get taxed to death in Australia, says Stormcrow. Yeah, the taxes are out the wazoo. Well, listen, I sort of have this family emergency that I definitely have to deal with. My wife never interrupts live broadcasts here, and she just did earlier. So I knew something was wrong. And it's interesting. I heard a big crash. And I thought, that's the first thing I thought, because we have this tree that's been like a problem right next to our driveway. That's the first thing I thought. But I looked outside and it was raining and dark and I didn't see what happened. I thought maybe a trash can blew over or something and it just sounded really loud. Turns out a big chunk of tree came down. So I'm going to have to deal with that. I apologize for cutting the show short. I did have more to share with you. Maybe we'll do a part 2 after some time has passed and more information is available. I want to thank people for the compliments of getting off of the usual subjects we cover. We're going to try to cover more real world events, especially if those intersect with the sort of conspiracy land things that we usually cover. So let me know what you think in the comments or in the live chat. Is there a conspiracy here? Or is it just that our government is so incompetent they can't do the most basic things like realize that, a rooftop 150 yards away from a presidential podium is a threat? I am having a hard time. I'm trying to just understand what happened, and I'm having a very hard time reconciling all of this incompetence and all of these mistakes that were made and not getting too conspiratorial about it. But it just, Joe Rogan described this entire event as bananas. It is bananas that they just let some kid climb up a ladder, lay down with a gun. There's people yelling and screaming to the local police and the security forces in the area. There's a man with a gun up there, and they don't get the president off the podium. They just, there's such a myriad of failures that have taken place here. And I'm sure in the coming months, there will be a blame game. And I predicted that the Secret Service is going to blame the local police. The local police is going to blame the Secret Service. But there'll be plenty of blame to go around because, in my opinion, this event should never have happened. And, one of the things is we always look at events like this through the lens of our own experience. When I was a child, Ronald Reagan came to visit my grade school. And so my grade school was a huge building that took up almost a city block. Well, the church was on one side and then the school was on the other side, and it took up an entire city block. But on the other side of the street were row homes. And I specifically remember that during Ronald Reagan's visit to the school, there were people with guns on every roof across the street, every roof, because those were the major perch points. And then on the other side, there was a few roofs. There was people with guns on every roof. Any perch point or point that an assassin could use, they were on top of. And I remember that the security, even as a child, I think I was in, I don't know, I'm probably in kindergarten I think I was in kindergarten, maybe. Anyway, the security was oppressive. There was metal detectors you needed to go through. And I remember seeing all the guys talking to their wrists and with earpieces in all over the crowd. And they were walking around and they were looking. And that was my first ever encounter with Secret Service. And, because of the visit, the school taught us about the Secret Service and, sort of prepared us for what, they're here to protect the president so nobody tries to hurt him. It was an interesting experience, but I can only view this event through the lens of my own experience of a presidential visit at my school. And they were on top of everything. Every rooftop, there was somebody on top of. And, it was an interesting visit. So how did this happen? I'll never know because it just seems so obvious that rooftop should have been covered. And it will also be interesting to see what the FBI are able to learn about this shooter. And, you know, all these conspiracy theories are to be expected. There's a lot of strangeness to this event. And the fact that a 20-year-old man has zero internet presence it boggles the mind. Like, did he, and by the way, I looked through way back and other things thinking maybe he scrubbed his social media before the event. Nope. It appears he didn't use or have social media accounts at all, which is very strange for a 20-year-old male or 20-year-old anybody, female or male. I would expect them to have at least something, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, something. Nope, he had nothing. So unlike previous events where you could go and see like, oh, this person was posting, you know, anti-Republican rhetoric every day, like the shooter at the baseball event that shot at some senators, they could go through their social media and see, oh, well, that's likely the motive. He hated Republicans or whatever. In this case, there's very little clues as to what triggered this. We heard from some of his classmates that he hated politicians, specifically Trump. But this entire event is just bananas. We're going to use Joe Rogan's term. The entire event seems bananas to me. And also, as I mentioned previously, no one has been suspended or fired after this event so far. Now, I'm sure somebody told me they will be. Some heads are going to roll over this event. We'll see what happens. But for now, Donald Trump is safe and roaring ahead in the polls. Not sure how I feel about that, but quite honestly, I think both choices are terrible. I think Joe Biden is a sickly, elderly man who doesn't have. I don't think he has it in him to finish his term, let alone do another 4 years. And it's so disappointing. And it seems as if they always rigged. The system is rigged. In 2016, they screwed Bernie out of the nomination by cheating. And in this circumstance, it appears that they were trying to get RFK off the playing field. He could have been the Democratic nominee, but because the system is rigged, they wouldn't allow him to register and be on the ballot for a Democratic primary or whatever. The whole system is rigged. It's very disappointing. Land of the free, home of the brave. But the truth is, the 1%, the rich, the powerful, the elite control everything, and there's not much we can do about it. So yeah, I'm not a very patriotic person. Can you tell? So, and in any case, friends, that's all I got for you. I'm going to go deal with a fallen tree. I'm not sure when I will be returning, but follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambion. Be sure you visit our website, truthseekershow.com. Get all the latest episodes, whether you're interested in the audio versions, the podcast episodes, or the video version. You can get them all the latest episodes at truthseekershow.com. We want to take a moment to thank you, kind and generous benefactors, especially Brad A., who became a YouTube channel member today. I also want to remind you that besides YouTube super chats, we're now once again accepting Buy Me a Coffee, and the link to do that is in the description of the video. We will be adding the Buy Me a Coffee people to all of the people that we thank. So in other words, whether you send a PayPal donation or buy me a coffee or a super chat, we thank every single person that supports our show. We're a viewer-supported show. We appreciate all of you for doing that. We want to thank you, the wonderful audience, for attending. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night. God bless all of you.